All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. All right. So if you want to ask a question, if you're on a mobile device or a small screen, the questions where you can ask the questions is going to be below the video. If you are on a bigger screen, like a laptop or a big computer or something like that, it's going to be on the right hand side most likely. It's possible it could be on the below it too. So we'll go ahead and get started here. And like I said, I take questions up to an hour before. So CJG, if you're still on here, if you have a question about limited flight balls, I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to help you with that. But if you're still on here, go ahead and repost your question. Looks like that was posted late last night. So we'll start here with Jason P. So Jason of the shaft close the face. How does the move relate to getting into max lag position? Are there really three moves the hands are doing at the same time? So the hands are only really doing one thing. So you got to look at it kind of like this. So a car is just a car, right? That's one thing, but it's made up of thousands and thousands of parts, right? So your hand, your hands can be doing one. They're really just doing one thing. They can't be here and there at once. It's only doing one thing, but you can break it down into a lot of different things, right? So that's basically, what it is. You can break the move down into a lot more than just two pieces. You can break it down into the elbow coming into the body, the lead elbow pointing out, the wrist turning to the right. You can add millions of pieces probably. You can break it down into a lot of different movements that are going on. So basically, let's talk about what creates lag, what creates that angle of lag, and how the move basically helps with that. So the angle of lag, and when we're measuring this max lag position and where we want to see that max lag position is about when that lead arm is parallel to the ground in the downswing. So if I'm up to the top here, I'm down parallel to the ground, lead arm parallel to the ground, it's going to be about right here. That's when I want to see that angle between my arm and the shaft be the smallest. That's why I want to see it get the tightest. So typically you're going to have an angle here at the top. It's going to get tighter as you go down to the bottom. And then as you go down to this position here. And then from here, it's going to start releasing into that straight line release position. I know it doesn't look like it's getting when you get to contact, but that's basically what's going on. The release should be starting when you look at the best players in the world. The release is actually starting right here. So we got this tightest angle. That's what we call the max lag angle, and then it starts to release from there. So what creates this really tight angle right here? So number one, it's actually how my thumbs up position. So if I have my wrist in a neutral position here, I can go thumbs up about 20 degrees. Well, that's not very much. I think a lot of people think that lag comes mostly from that, but it really doesn't. It comes, some of it is from this. So if I have it, like I said, in a neutral position here, I can bend this back about 20 degrees. So that's about 20 degrees right there. Now I can do it more if I really cup my wrist and go like that, but we don't want to be doing that in the swing either. So nice flat neutral wrist here, and then I bend it back, and that's going to give me, most people can do about 20 degrees. If you have really flexible wrists, maybe you can do 30 degrees, but I can only do 20 degrees, and I think that's basically the average where most people can get to. So that's part of it. Another part of it is the shallowing of the club. So if I have this club straight up and down like this, and I've got that 20-degree angle. If I shallow it, so if I go like this, I shallow the club. So that's what's happening in the golf swing. I'm right here. I'm shallowing up the club. Now look at that angle. It's a lot less than 20 degrees, right? So here I am at the top. Here I am shallowed out. So now I've got that sharper angle. That's looking more like the lag that you're getting, that you're seeing with the tour players. The other part that creates lag is the momentum of the club. So when I'm bringing the club up to the top, it's going that way. And the momentum of the club is going that way. When I switch directions, that can create a sharper angle too. So if you watch here, if I get the thumbs up, so thumbs up position, and then I shallow it out, and now I'm just going to go like this. I'm just going to go like that. I'm going to get the club head moving behind me and then switch directions. Look how sharp I can make that angle, right? So that's where that sharp angle of lag comes from. So where does the move fit into that? That's the shallowing of the club, right? So the move is, you can break it down, as Jason said, you can break it down into two things. You can break it down into the shallowing of the club, which is going to give you the appearance of more lag, and you can break it down into the squaring of the club face earlier. But that's really one move. If I'm at the top of the swing, I'm shallowing out the club and I'm squaring the face earlier. That's one move that I'm doing right there. I'm not shallowing out the club and then doing that. That's one move that I'm doing at one time. But you can break, like I said, you can break it down into two pieces. You can break it down. You can break those down into 100 more pieces. You can break everything down into a little more detailed pieces. But the move is really one thing. Now, some people can choose to do the move in, not at the same time. But whatever happens, you've got to be in this position right here at that. So as you're coming down, you've got to have this club shallowed out, and you've got to have this club starting to square up. Otherwise, it's just going to be really, really difficult to be very consistent in golf. So get the club shallowed out, get that handle turning as you're coming down, and you're going to be able to start playing some more consistent golf. That's going to allow you to rotate into contact, because the reason why you want to shallow it out, because if the club's steep, that club is off plane. Now I have to make a compensation in the downswing to get that club on plane, or I got to swing over the top, or I'm just going to bring this club straight down into the ground 2 feet behind the golf ball. Most people aren't going to do that. Most people are either going to stand up to get this club back on plane. When I stand up, what do? I got to flip the club to get to the golf ball. Otherwise, I'll miss it, right? Or I'll stay in my posture, but then I'll just come way over the top to get to the golf ball. And a lot of people do that as well, and that's going to be hard to be consistent as well. So we got to get this club to where it's shallowing out so that I don't have to make a compensation in the downswing. I can just stay in my posture and rotate through contact. But when I rotate through contact, that means, and I stay in my posture, I rotate through contact, that means I can't come into the club, into the ball and square the face like this. And if I do, and what I mean by that, square the face like this, square the face by flipping, square the face by pushing my trail hand through, and look at my trail hand is straight, lead arm is broken down. If I come into contact like that, I'm going to have to stand up at the last second to make room for the club, or I'm just going to put that club right into the ground, right behind the golf ball. So that's the other thing. If I'm able to stay in my posture, if I got this club in a great position here where I'm shallowed out, and I'm able to stay in my posture and turn that handle down, I can stay in my posture and have forward shaft lean and square the face at contact. So that's basically the move course in a nutshell. So if you want to work on that, you want to work on a great drill from the move course, which is called the tennis racket drill. So I go check out that drill. That's the best one out there for getting that club shallowed out and getting that face squaring earlier so that you can rotate through contact and have forward shaft lean and a square club face. If you want to get to that drill, all you have to do is go to the house icon at the top of the page. That's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, if you scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website. It'll say Top Speed Golf System course progress. You'll see a list of all the courses on the website, and then you'll be able to select the move course. The tennis racket drill is 1.3 in the move, and you can start working on that to get the club face squared up. All right, so Nicholas P says, when keeping a nose head behind the ball from the stable fluid spine, I sometimes struggle to make solid contacts, usually getting fat in thin shots. When I transfer my weight effectively, I can easily hit the ball solid, but my head gets slightly ahead of the ball. Is this a problem? I'll also have a tendency to dip my right shoulder down when I actually focus on keeping the head behind the ball. So it sounds like you're not rotating open. So if you're coming into contact and I'm keeping everything behind the ball and I'm rotating through contact, I'm able to release this club out in front. If I keep my head behind the ball and I don't rotate, I just bump my hips forward, my trail shoulder is just going to go down, and I'm just going to stick that club in the ground behind the ball. So you got to get the rotation when you're coming through there. You can't just come through, slide the hips forward, keep the nose back, because that's going to result in the issue that you're talking about. So look at your swing on video, see what's going on there, see if you're rotating the body.
the hips should be rotating about 45 degrees as you come into contact. So if you look at it from this angle, if I'm rotating into contact, my hips are open about 45 degrees at contact. So make sure that you're doing that. There's all kinds of reasons why you may not be able to rotate your hips into contact. Part of it is a lot of what I talked about in Jason's question, the move. If you're coming down steep, you're not going to be able to rotate your hips. You're going to typically stand up to get that club to work back on plane. So there's only really one way for me to know exactly what's maybe stopping you from getting your hips open, and that's through unlimited swing reviews. If you're interested in doing some unlimited swing reviews with me, and if you're not familiar with what that is, it's a program where you can actually send me video of your swing, and I'll give you feedback on your swing. So it's a pretty cool program. We use an app. You video your swing, you send it to us, and then we send you a lesson back. I'll compare you to pros. I'll draw lines on there. I'll show you all kinds of cool stuff. Recommend drills that you need to be doing to get you in the right place. So that is what I would recommend doing if you really want to pinpoint this thing, unless you can figure it out on your own by guessing and checking and things like that. So if you're interested in that, I don't have spots available right now, but if you want to join the waiting list, go ahead and click the Get a Review at the top of the page there. That will take you to the swing review page where you can join the waiting list. Just scroll down to the bottom there. You'll see my picture there, and you can just join the waiting list. If there's a spot available, then you can go ahead and grab that spot. But last I knew, there aren't any spots available. So join that waiting list if you see that. But you may want to look, if you're coming down steep, you may want to work on getting the club to shallow out. Because if I'm coming down steep, I'm not going to be able to rotate my hips open unless I come over the top. If I come over the top, I can rotate, but that's going to end up in that nose in front of the ball anyway. So I imagine that's not what you're doing. I imagine what you're doing is you're probably steep, and then you do this. You stand up, and when you stand up, that raises the handle, that drops the head back on plane, and now I'm doing this action. So if I'm standing up, I can't rotate. I'll just do that and drop my head. I'll release the club early, hit thin shots, hit fat shots, and so on and so forth. So I would imagine that's what's going on. But like I said, it's impossible for me to know without seeing your swing. If that is the case, then you're going to want to work on getting this club to where it's shallowed out. That's going to be the move course, getting this club to where it's shallowed out. You can also search many drills on the website. Just search the word shallow on the website. If you're on a computer, you can look in the upper right-hand corner. It says search this website. You can just search the word shallow, find tons of videos on shallowing out the club. If you're on a mobile device or a tablet, it's possible you may need to click on, there's going to be an icon there. It's like 3 horizontal lines. If you click on that and then scroll, that's going to expand a menu. If you scroll to the bottom of that menu, you'll see the search functionality there, and you can search shallow. So Brandon S says, hi Q, would you discuss the pros cons of addressing the ball far away with arms straight like Bryson DeChambeau? Seems like one would hit a lot of toe shots with little to no shaft lean. Thanks. So I wouldn't necessarily model your swing off of Bryson. It's just not an easy swing. You have to be. It's just basically he's trying to swing on one plane. He's trying to take out all the variables. Most people aren't going to be able to be very powerful when you do that. And he's a big, strong guy, and he's able to do that. So basically, if you're like this, right? If I'm like this, I'm going to have a hard time getting the hinge and things that I need to do. So what I recommend doing, the easiest way to swing the club would be to just have a little bit of flex in the knees, bend over at the waist until your hands are about 4 to 6 inches in front of your thighs. Once your hands are 4 to 6 inches in front of your thighs, stop. Don't keep going. Once they're there, and then right there, then you grab the club. That's going to be a great position to be in for most people. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't swing the way that Bryson does. You may try it and see if it works better for you. But I just think it's a harder way to swing the club. You have to have incredible balance and technically be very sound like Bryson is in order to be able to swing that way. It's just tough to be able to do that. So I don't really recommend it, but doesn't mean that it won't work for you. A single plane kind of swing. So you can give it a try, see if it works. That's about all it comes down to. It's really personal preference. There's pros and cons to everything, but really it comes down to personal preference. What gives you the best results? You can absolutely get forward shaftling, but you have to sequence properly. So when he's at address, he's basically like this, and he comes down, and he's getting into a forward shaftling position at contact. But I find that's going to be more difficult for most people to do. All right. So Bob L says, I see in my videos that I have the ball located in the middle of my stance for irons, probably feeling it is easier to get shaftling, but I still haven't really released between halfway down impact. I think you recommend a ball more forward, but it seems like it would be even harder to get shaftling. Appreciate your comments. All right. Thanks, Bob. So first of all, when you're looking at your swing on video, especially ball placement, the video can kind of play tricks on you if you don't have that camera angle perfect. So I would make sure you've got that camera angle set up. So if you were to, let's say you were using this camera, my webcam here that I'm using here, and I was trying to get the right camera angle, what I would do is I'd take my alignment stick, I'd straddle it, and I would have that camera shooting right down that, and I'd be right here. So that's going to make that ball placement look correct if you have it in the right spot. So you can see here, if I have the ball, you can't see the ball, but if I have the ball there, you're going to be able to clearly see that that's a little bit ahead of the middle of my stance. Now, if I'm over here, let's say I have it over here, and I have the camera more over there, and I put that ball about in the same place in my stance. It looks like it's much further back in my stance, doesn't it? And if I'm shooting from more over there, it's going to look like it's more up in my stance. So you got to be careful of that whenever you're looking at that. Make sure that you're looking from straight on if that is the case. Now, I generally recommend ball placement for any shots that are hit off the turf. It's going to be one ball basically ahead of the middle of your stance. And that's going to put it, if you have proper spine angle and everything, it's going to be straight down from the lead ear. That's going to put you in that one ball ahead of the middle of your stance. Now, you can play the ball in the middle of your stance if that's where you want to play it. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get more forward shaft lean. Theoretically, it does, but you may react a little bit differently to that ball being in the middle of your stance. But typically, that one ball forward of the middle, that's going to give you a good area to hit into the golf ball. You're going to be able to transfer your weight. You're going to be able to rotate. You're going to be able to get that club face squared up. You'll be able to come in shallow, but not too shallow. If you have that ball too far back in your stance, that puts it in a position where you're hitting down on it maybe too much. And you may end up having a little bit less consistency when you do that. If you hit down on the ball a lot, it's going to be hard to be consistent. So that may be what's going on there. It's hard for me to say without seeing your swing, but there's no perfect ball position for everybody. What I'd recommend doing is I'd go out and I would hit the ball from several ball positions and see what works best for you, what allows you to get in the best impact position, what allows you to have the most consistency, and so on and so forth. In general, that one ball ahead of the middle of your stance typically gives, I think for most people, that area where you're going to get the best of everything. Putting the ball a little bit back in the stance, I mean, might be for wedges, you might be a little bit better to be there, but maybe not for all of your clubs. So it's just something you're going to have to test out and see what works best for you. All right. So MCY says, I'm a left-handed putter and consider myself a good putter. I noticed that on right to left putts, I have a much harder time starting the ball on line. I realize it is still a straight line, but doesn't seem that way. I seem to usually start the ball too far right. So it looks like maybe your alignment is a little bit off. So what I'd recommend doing is go out and test your alignment and make sure that you're lined up correctly. So go out, find a dead straight putt. You just go out to your, practice putting facility, practice putting green, wherever it might be. try to find a dead straight putt. So a putt that has no break at all, and really try to find where that center is. I actually find that I often set up, I miss a lot of putts left. And I found that I actually set up lined up to the left quite a bit. So I have to constantly keep an eye on that and make sure that I'm lined up correctly. And that just comes from practicing on the green. So go practice your putting, find that dead straight putt, find about an 8-footer that is dead straight, and focus on lining up correctly, finding that line up correctly. You can use a training aid like I had one around here. I don't know where it went. So a putting mirror is a good training aid to use. I thought I had one over here, but I guess I don't. But a putting mirror is good to use because you can line that up perfectly with the hole, and then you can have that set down at the ball. And I'm looking around for it because I thought I had one sitting here. But you can set that up to the hole and be able to see exactly where you're putting it. So I'd recommend you get perfectly lined up, find where that is. And I imagine once you do that, it's going to be a lot easier to get lined up on all those putts. All right, so Randy W says, I just started your TSG system. Notice a few items which might prove to be challenging. The lifting of the left heel caused me to hit thin and even top shots. I went back to my current swing, hit the ball fairly well. One of my current issue is a lack of distance, 7-iron, 145 yards. Right, so when you're doing speed training, you're not doing ball striking training. There's a difference between the two. So when you are working on your speed training, all you're focused on is getting your speed up as much as you possibly can. Contact really isn't that important when you're doing that. Now, when you're doing ball striking training, that's a whole nother issue. You want to focus on that. But when you're working on speed training, which is to get you more distance, you don't want to care about what's happening with the golf ball. You might hit some that are haywire. That's completely fine. What you're focusing on is the speed part of it. And as your as your max speed goes up, so as your speed with getting your maximum range of motion, getting that heel off the ground, and so on and so forth, as that starts to go up, that's going to make your playing speed go up. So just to tell you about myself, I've done this speed training. I swung as hard as I could. I topped a lot of drives when I was doing the speed training and so on and so forth. But I started out at 108, 110. I took 10 swings. They were all between 108 and 110. And I went through the speed training, and then I got to where my as fast as I possibly could speed was 124 miles per hour. That's the fastest I could swing. It wasn't a straight shot. I hit it way left, but it was my speed was as fast as I possibly could. My playing speed went up to 117, 118. So this is the speed that I used when I was out on the course, what was most comfortable to me out on the course. So that's really, what it comes down to is raising that as fast as you can speed. That's going to get your playing speed to go up as well. And that's due to something that's called neural adaptation, and also due to just getting more comfortable with the techniques. You went out, and I'm guessing you tried one time to lift your heel up. And when you do that, it's not going to be an instant more distance. You just don't quite know how to hit the ball yet and have the heel coming off the ground. You got to go out and you got to get more comfortable with it. So whenever you're changing a technique, you don't quite know how to hit the ball yet and have that technique with many of the techniques. So you got to get more comfortable with it, and the contact will get better. So I'd recommend stick with the 20-minute distance fix. Start working through the program. Get the heel coming off the ground. Get more comfortable with that. If the speed doesn't go up lifting the heel off the ground, then it's probably not something that you need to do. And one note about that, and this is often something that I see with people lifting the heel off the ground, you just don't lift the heel off the ground to lift it off the ground. What I mean by that is what I see, and I see this oftentimes at clinics, because this is something that we work on at clinics, is I'll get somebody who's doing the heel off the ground, and they'll do this to start. So they'll just lift the heel off the ground as they start to swing. So you're not just lifting the heel to lift the heel. You need to be, the whole reason why you lift this heel is to free up the hips. So you want to get those hips rotating and then allow the hips to pull the heel off the ground. That's what you want to feel like. The hips are pulling that heel off the ground so that you can rotate some more. We're not just lifting the heel and then rotating. You're rotating, and then the rotation is lifting the heel off the ground. That's what's freeing you up to be able to do that. So keep that in mind whenever you're working on that. But if because some people are really flexible and don't need to lift that heel up or don't need to allow the heel to come up, they're going to get the same amount of turn whether they do it or not. So keep that in mind whenever you're working on it. It's hard for me to know exactly what's going on without seeing your swing, but I would say stick with it, get that speed going up. As that max speed goes up, your playing speed is going to go up, and that 7-iron, and that translates to your irons as well. You know, if your driver speed is going to be going up, your iron speed is going to go up. It's not like your driver speed goes way up and then everything else stays the same. All the speeds are going to be going up. So, and that's due to the neural adaptation part of it, and also helping with your technique. All right. So Stephen N says, "What's your thought on putting right thumb to side of club instead of on top of club?" It's really personal preference. If you putt better with it that way, so I think he's talking about if you're putting, traditional kind of putting grip would be, thumbs going straight down the shaft for the most part. But hey, if you putt better with your thumb like that, and you're able to square the club face and have great distance control, then who am I to say that's wrong? Putting, as far as putting is concerned, there's a lot of personal preference that goes on there. This is your traditional putting kind of grip, thumbs going down the shaft. But hey, if you have your thumb going like that and you putt great, then that's completely fine. Just like if I have my hand like this, I want to use a claw grip. That's kind of it's pretty popular on the tour, especially I think you see it a little bit more on the ladies tour. But that's completely fine. If you putt better that way, then go ahead. That's not for me. I've tried every putting grip imaginable out there. This kind of putting grip, to me, it's hard for me to speed control went way down. Now my stroke was maybe a little bit better, but my speed control was terrible. So for me to have the best combination of speed control and being able to control the club head as far as the squareness and so on and so forth, and having the proper feel, to me, just a traditional putting grip is worked the best. But I tried everything and everything in between. I tried the left hand low. I tried the claw. I tried having my hands just together like this. I tried a lot of different stuff, but I keep going back to the traditional one because I find it gives me the best of everything. But really, it's just personal preference. Tim L says, "I am working on my forward shaft lean at impact. How important is that I keep my left arm straight and my right elbow tucked into my side?" So left arm straight is not, or lead arm straight. I'm assuming that you're right-handed. That is not a huge important thing. If you look at, there's a lot of players out there that do not have their lead arm straight. So look at Brooks Koepka. Look at Lee Westwood. Look at Jordan Spieth. A lot of players out there that do not have that lead arm perfectly straight throughout the swing. It's fine if you have a little bit of bend in it. Now, if you're going like this at the top, that can be an issue because that's typically going to cause you to cast a little bit. You're typically going to, if you're in this position at the top, you're often going to do that as you start the swing. So that can be an issue. But for the most part, if you have a little bit of bend, if you're kind of like this and you're coming down and you have a little bit of bend in your arm as you're coming down, that's completely fine. Now, if you're coming into contact and you're not rotating your body and you're getting this kind of action as you're going through the chicken wing, that's an issue in and of itself. But if you're coming into contact and you're rotating through contact, your body is rotating, you have a little bit of bend in this lead arm. If you look at Brooks Koepka, he's basically the same way there. And if you have that kind of position at contact, you can't really see it, but if I turn this way, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. So if you're coming into contact, you're rotating your body. That's all looking good. You're squaring the club face. You're getting forward shaft lean and lots of speed at impact. That's completely fine. You can have a bit of elbow bend there. But if you have the elbow bend where your body is stalling out and your arms are racing out in front of your body and it's looking more like that, then that's an issue because you're not using your body to kind of rotate through contact. So you need to make sure that that's that chicken wing that we're talking about. So keep the body rotating through contact. Now, as far as the right elbow tucked into the side, that is important to get the club shallowing out. If you're trying to get forward shaft lean, you're going to have a hard time shallowing out that club if that elbow is not coming into the body or coming in pretty close to the body. So if you watch here, if I have this elbow out away from the body, what does that club want to do? It wants to go steep. If I'm in this position right here, I'm going to do that in the swing. I'm going to go like that. I'm going to flip through contact. So I've got to get this club shallowed out. When I shallow out the club, look where my elbow goes. It goes into my body, pretty close to my body here. And that's going to allow me to rotate through contact. If that elbow gets out away from the body, that's when you're going to get the over-the-top kind of flip. So that trail elbow movement is pretty important there as far as being able to achieve forward shaft lean. So William S. says, I've heard often that most speed comes from the arms and hands, mostly hands. Long hitters can hit the ball far kneeling on the ground or hitting on the chair. What is it they are doing with their hands that produces such speed? So the arms, the shoulders, basically the upper body, your shoulders, your arms, and your hands are the things that are moving the fastest. They're not necessarily doing anything different. It's just that naturally those are going to move faster. So if 85% of your speed is going to come from the shoulders and up, that's basically where it's coming from. That's for anybody. It's not something that they're doing special. It's just for anybody. That's where it's coming from. So if you imagine, if I were to just take, let's say that I swing, my normal club head speed's 100 miles per hour, right? If I'm sequencing everything correctly, and that's 100 miles per hour, that means that if I were to just go like this and not rotate my hips at all, so I'm restricting my hips. If I were to just go like this and throw fling this club as fast as I possibly can, you're typically going to be able to swing 80, 85 miles per hour just with that. It's just because you're able to move your arms a lot faster. I can do that with my arm a lot faster. Imagine attaching something to your hip and trying to throw something with your hip, right? So maybe I got like a lacrosse net here, and I'm trying to throw that ball with my hip only. You can do it as hard as and fast as you possibly can, but you ain't gonna have much behind it. Whereas it doesn't take much for me with my arm, even if I don't use my shoulder at all. I can just do it with my wrist and do it faster. It's just a much faster moving joint. So it's not something anybody's doing special. That's just the nature of the body here. I have my wrist is faster than my hip. My elbow is faster than my hip. My shoulder is faster than my hip. The rotation of my shoulders is going to be faster than my hips, most likely. So all of those things are much faster, and that's why you're able to get all the speed. But if you want to have the most efficient swing, if you want to be able to have proper mechanics through contact, we need to have the lower body involved as well. So I'm not sure if you've seen the Momentum Train video on the website. On the website, there's a Momentum Train video. If you want to check it out, all you have to do is search Momentum Train on the website. But basically what Clay talks about is you have a train, all right, and let's say that train's going 60 miles per hour. And then we're going to take another train and we're going to put it on the roof of that train. It's also going 60 miles per hour. Then we're going to take another train and put it on the roof of that one, and it's going 60 miles per hour. So that top train is going 180 miles per hour relative to the ground, but it's going 60 miles per hour relative to the train below it. So if you are not using your lower body, you're taking out trains out of there. You're only able to use a certain number of trains. We want to stack as many trains on top of each other as possible. Now, not all trains are going to be moving at the same speed. Your arm train, let's say if your arms are a train, that train's moving a lot faster than the hips that are a train. But in order to get the most amount and efficient amount of speed possible, then you want to get the body more involved. So make sure that you're doing that for sure. All right, I'll be right back real quick. I have to take care of something. So give me just a minute. All right, sorry about that. All right, so let's keep on moving through here. So James N says, thanks to TSG, my technique in hitting has been so much better. Thanks. For some reason, I hit my 7-iron great, 180, 120 yards and straight in simulator, but not as consistent, comfortable with 5, 6-iron. Often don't hit my 5 more than 190 yards. Are there some typical reasons why I'd struggle with a club so close to my 7-iron? So one thing to keep in mind here is just by nature, your longer clubs are going to be more difficult to hit, right? So if you think about it in this sense, here I have, this is a 3-iron and this is a wedge. Look at the difference. If I have those there, look at the difference in the length of these clubs. You know, that 3-iron is 5 inches longer than this wedge. So the wedge is going to be easier to hit because it's a shorter club, and it also has more loft on it. So it's going to put more backspin on the ball, which is going to stabilize the ball flight. There's a reason why you don't hit, it's harder to hit a huge slice with a wedge versus a 3-iron. And that's because it has more loft. That puts more backspin on the ball. The more backspin the ball has, the more stable that ball flight is going to be. It's not going to want to go off course as much. So that's a big part of it that's going on there. As far as a reason why there may be things going on, it could be that you're mishitting that 5-iron or that 6-iron. There's all kinds of reasons that's going on. It's impossible for me to know without seeing your swing. But what I'd recommend doing is I would video your swing, video your 7-iron swing, video your 5-iron swing, and then compare them side by side and see if there's something going on there. See what the difference is between the stride. If you're on a simulator, see what your club head speed is with the 5-iron versus the 7-iron. See what that contact is. See what your face and path. My guess is that you're mishitting that 5-iron quite a bit. You're probably mishitting it, hitting it way off the toe, way off the heel. There may be something going on there. Would be my guess of what's going on. So that's why I'd be looking at. You can use an app like V1 Golf, and you can check those side by side. You can actually do a side by side comparison in the app and see what's going on there between the two. But that's what I'd recommend doing. But just understand, by nature, your longer clubs are going to be harder to hit. Your driver's harder to hit than a pitching wedge. Just because it's such a longer club, there's a lot more variables. There's a lot less spin going on. So, it takes a lot less for that ball to go off course. But it's hard to say without seeing your swing, but I would take a look on video and see if you see any major differences there. All right. So David L says, being based in Montreal, my practice during the winter months has to be done inside. I find that going through the courses is a challenge because I don't have the room to do any of the front facing camera angles being boxed into hitting area. What do you recommend? I mean, if there's only so much you can do, I would try to find a place where you can go do that. I know, we have people that come in from Canada to go to the clinics all the time. And they say that they go to simulators quite a bit wherever they are. So I don't know if there's anything in your area, but you can maybe try that. But yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do indoors. I don't know what I can tell you. I can't create more space for you to be able to do it at your home. So, you can just do your best and be able to, try to do the angles the best you can. You can look at things in the mirror. You can try and get a mirror and see if you can do it in the mirror, things of that nature. I'm sorry, I wish I could help more, but I don't know what else to tell you. If you don't have the space to be able to do it, then I would try to find somewhere where you do have more space. So Ed R says, are swing trainers such as LC-1 beneficial? I do not know what the LC-1 is. But I will tell you my opinion of most training aids here in a second. I can Google that since we don't have any more questions after Ed. So we got about 20 more minutes left. So you got any questions, go ahead and post them on there. But I can Google this LC1 trainer. Let's see what we can find. I haven't heard of that one, so. Let's see here. Here we go. I would say that this is not an effective one. All right, so let me explain why that would be. All right, so there's basically three types of training aids. There are ones that force you to be in positions. So that would mean there's no way you can get into a position. It forces you to be in a position. So imagine if you had a robot arm that came out and was basically swung the club for you and moved you in certain positions. So this, I believe, would fall into that category. It's something, if those of you who aren't familiar with what this training aid is, I just looked it up, and basically it's something that you attach to, it looks like your upper arms here. It's just this thing you attach to your upper arms, and it keeps the space between your upper arms the same throughout the swing. So, that's forcing you to be in a position. I'm not even sure that's a position that you're wanting to be in, because I'm looking at, they're showing a side-by-side of someone who had a flying right elbow, right? And then and his swing was like this, but then they got to where his elbow was more in and his swing was like this. Well, to me, it looks like you just restricted his backswing. It's completely fine to have a flying right elbow at the top. 100% fine. You just got to bring that elbow back in. Look at Jack Nicklaus, flying right elbow. Some people aren't able to have the flexibility to be able to not have a flying right elbow. So basically, that training aid to me is one that restricts you, that is forcing you to be in a position. Like you can't put your elbow out. And that's not really teaching you anything. The only way that these training aids that are halfway useful, the ones that force you to be in positions, are that they kind of help you understand the position that you should be in. And then once you kind of understand that, then you need to be able to do it on your own. So I think some people think, okay, if I have this training aid that's holding my arms into this position and I do 100 swings with that, I take it off, my body's going to know how to do that. The brain doesn't work that way. We've got to learn how to do it on our own. So the training aid like that forces you to be in a position, it's kind of useless for the most part. The only way that it's useful is that it might help you to feel that position. Now, this particular one here, to me, I don't think it's useful at all, because it's forcing you to be in positions that aren't even really desirable to be in. Those aren't even positions that you'd want to be in. So this is in that first tier training aids, ones that force you to be in the position. These are the least useful ones, and this one I would put even more or less useful, because it's forcing you to be in positions that aren't even desirable to be in. So I would say and again, I'm basing this completely on, I've never used this training aid. So if you want to say, Q, you've never used this training aid, what do you know? That's completely fine. But that's completely fair. But just based on the eyeball test and what I know about training aids and how the brain works and how we're able to use them more effectively, I would say that one gets an F for me. Now, there's a second tier of training aids, which are the ones that give you feedback while you're completing the action. So it's not forcing you to do anything. It's just kind of it's giving you an idea as you're doing it, if you're in the right position. So a training aid like that would be the impact snap, right? So the impact snap, if you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically just like the grip of the club, and it's got this arm that comes out of it, and this arm will touch. It's got a ball on it, and if that ball touches your forearm during the swing, that means that you're in the proper position. If it doesn't touch your arm,
then it's giving you feedback that maybe you flipped the club or something like that. So it's a great training aid in the sense that it's giving you feedback during the action, but you got to be able to do it without it. So it's good to help you feel the position that you want to be in, and it's giving you feedback during it. But then you got to ditch it. And you got to be able to do it with the club, with the golf ball, without it. The other thing I like about the Impact Snap is that it's not a whole club. It's just this part of the club. It's basically just the grip part. And then it's got the little arm that comes out of it. So it's travel friendly. You can take it on. You can use it in the hotel. You can use it in the house. Someone asked earlier about, they don't have a lot of space in their house. If you're working on forward shaftling and things like that, using that Impact Snap could be helpful because you can work on the positions that you need to be in, but you don't have a whole entire club that you need space for. So that's part of the reason why I like the Impact Snap as well. So if you're interested in that, we do have an affiliate deal with Impact Snap, meaning that if you go and you use our promo code, you'll get a little bit of discount. So you win, and then we'll get a little bit of a kickback from that. So it's not very much, but we get a little bit as well. So if you're interested in that, you can just go to impactsnap.com. I believe you get 10% off if you use promo code C Ballard at checkout. So again, that's C as in Clay, C Ballard at checkout, and you can get, I believe it's 10% off. And like I said, we do get a kickback from that if you're interested in that training. So that's the middle tier of training aids. Those are the ones that are useful. They're not the cure-all of everything, but they are useful training aids. They help you kind of understand the positions. I know the Impact Snap has been useful for me because it's helped me kind of understand what that impact position should be feeling like as you're coming into contact. But again, you got to do it without it eventually. You can't do a million repetitions with that Impact Snap and then expect to be able to grab a golf club, and it's just going to happen with the golf club. You got to be able to train that exact same feeling with the golf club as well. So the best training aids out there, I know you're on the tip of the edge of your seat here wondering what the best training aids out there are. The best training aids out there are the ones that give you feedback after you've performed the action. So you do it on your own. You are completing everything on your own, and then you look at feedback after the fact from whatever the training aid might be. So an example of that would be video, right? So if you're looking on video, you have to complete the action, right? And you have to do it on your own, and then you have to look on video and make the adjustment on your own. These are also probably the least popular training aids because it's harder, right? It doesn't seem it seems like it's hard work, and it is, but it's the most effective thing that you can do. So video, and it's a training aid you probably already have on your phone. So video is a good one. Swing speed radar, something that gives you feedback about your club head speed. TrackMan, obviously, these are things that are giving you feedback on your swing as you're doing it, and then you have to make the adjustments to make that happen. You have to do it completely on your own. You have to learn. Your body has to learn how to do it. That's how you really get better and better. So those are really the best training aids out there, the most effective ones. But definitely the tier 2 have their place. The tier 1 have a very, very small place. I wouldn't spend a lot of money on a tier 1 type training aid just because the use of it is it's so minuscule that it's almost not even worth buying it. So those are my thoughts on training aids real quick. So now that we got some questions, we'll get off that subject. Excuse me here. My nose is running a little bit. I do apologize for that. So Mark N says, how do you avoid chunks and shots, especially when squatting on the downswing? So the main reason why people chunk the ball or thin the ball is because of either they're loading up improperly, or they're getting an improper weight shift. So if you want to work on that, I'd recommend going to our Stop Chunking and Topping course. That course is going to be all about loading up properly and getting proper weight shift. So to get to that course, all you got to do is go to the house icon at the top of the page. That's going to take you to the home page. If you scroll down the home page, you'll see a list of all the courses, and you can select the Stop Chunking and Topping course. So let's talk about loading up improperly and what that would look like. So if I'm going up to the top and I'm getting my spine angle is leaning toward the target, well, what's going to happen here is in the downswing, I'm going to want to fall away. When I fall away,
I'll chunk the ball or thin the ball or even top the ball sometimes. So that may be what's going on there. So what we want to do is we want to load up on this trail leg here. And we want to get a nice, good shoulder turn. And then we want to get a good weight shift to our lead side. The other thing is if I slide way off the ball. So if I slide way off the ball, I may not be able to get a proper weight transfer to my lead side. So the improper loading is what makes it more difficult to get the most important thing, which is the weight shift to the lead side. So maybe you are loading up properly. You just don't shift your weight, which is the other piece that you may want to work on. So you got to get that momentum shift, that weight shift. You got to get that pressure going into the lead foot in the downswing. So that's all worked on in the stop chunking and topping course. Check out that course to start working on those things. So Mark Ann goes on to says, please review why shank and short irons and how to avoid. So there's all kinds of reasons why you might shank. The main thing that I see with people shanking is because what would be called early extension. So that's where the hips are moving toward the ball in the downswing and also swinging too much from the inside. So that could be what's going on there. So if you draw a line, if you look at your video from down the line, let's say that I draw that line as the edge of the vent here. If I'm going up to the top and in the downswing, you see this kind of action. My hips are moving toward the ball. It's going to be hard for me my hips are getting in the way. I can't get that strike in the right position or get that face in the right position. So the first thing I would do to avoid a shank is to intentionally try to strike the ball on the toe as much as you possibly can. Try to hit the ball on the toe because the shank, you're hitting the ball right here. So try to hit it out here. All it is adjusting your feel to get the desired result. So that's number one. Number two is I would see if you are swinging too much from the inside. Look at your swing on video and see if this club is working very much inside the hands. So this would be in line with the hands, right? This would be inside of the hands. This would be outside of the hands. See if that club is working too much from the inside of the hands. If it is, then you're going to want to feel, again, this is adjusting your feel to get the desired result. You're going to want to feel like the club is working outside your hands in the downswing. Also look at your swing and see if you are coming off of that line. If you are, try to feel like your backside is up against a wall and you're trying to push your left pocket up against that wall in the downswing. And that's going to help you to rotate instead of doing this. Hopefully that's going to get you to where you're rotating into contact and clearing the hips out of the way so that they're not getting in the way and pushing your hands out there. So look at those things in your swing and see if those help. Again, I apologize. My nose, I don't know why my allergies are acting up this morning. All right, so Nicholas P says, so it sounds like the move is just as important as other courses based on your answers. If you don't shallow, you can't rotate, so you can't get the proper compression line without the move. Is that accurate? Chicken or the egg sort of thing? No, I would say it's not really accurate. The move is a very important part, but it's more of an advanced thing to try and do. So what I'd actually recommend that you do is you make sure that the first four pieces of the top speed golf system are in order. You can have a great compression line, but come down steep. Like you can do all of those things. So I would make sure that your stable fluid spine's good. I'd make sure that your power turn's good. I'd make sure you have lag, and I'd make sure that your compression line is good. And then what you can do is you can work on the straight line release and the move kind of at the same time because they do go a little bit hand in hand with each other. But I wouldn't be working on the move until those first four pieces are in order. Those are really the most important pieces. The move is just what allows you to get forward shaft lean, essentially. That's basically what it comes down to. And that's basically what the straight line release is as well. So make sure that the first four pieces are good. Power turn, stable fluid spine, power turn, lag, and compression line. Because if you can't do those things, there's no way you're gonna have no chance with the stable fluid spine or the move. So work on those pieces first, get those in order, and then you can work on the move and the straight line release. All right, so looks like we got a couple more questions here. So William W says, I tend to miss most of my easy putts on the high side. I guess I'm usually reading too much break in putts. Unless the putts have a lot of break, then I can miss them both ways. How can I keep from missing both those easy ones on the high side. So I would check your alignment. I talked about this earlier. The biggest issue I see is that people think that they're putting the ball in a direction. They're actually not. They're actually lined up too far right or too far left. So what I'd recommend doing is go out, find a dead straight, like 8-foot putt, and make sure that you are lining up correctly. Make sure that you're lining up to the hole. If you're missing a lot of those putts, then that means that you're not lining up correctly. I struggle with this myself. I miss a lot of putts to the left, and I found out I'm lining up to the left a lot. That just feels comfortable for me to line up for the left. So I have to be constantly making sure that's something that whenever I go practice my putting, the first thing I do is I make sure that I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing. I'm seeing a straight putt, or I'm seeing the line that I think I'm seeing, because my line has actually been shifted to the left. So I make sure find that dead straight putt, use like a putting mirror or some alignment sticks to give you a straight on path there, and see exactly where that is. So David C says, since the SC200 swing speed radar is no longer available, do you think Clay will evaluate the SC300 or other brands? Another product could be recommended. So right now, what I'd recommend is the Swing Speed Radar. It's we don't have an affiliate deal with them or anything, but you can get those on Amazon. They're usually a little over $100. We're not sponsored by them. We don't have any affiliation with them, but these are the devices that we use for clinics. And I actually prefer them when working on speed training. I actually prefer these training aids because all it tells you is club head speed, and it's instant. It tells you as soon as you can look down at it after you've hit your shot. As soon as you can look down at it, it's telling you what your club head speed is. So as long as you set it up correctly, it is very accurate. You just have to make sure that you set it up correctly. And Clay goes over that in the 20-minute distance fix on how to do that. So yeah, unfortunately, they don't make the SC200 anymore, and they just make the SC300. And the SC300, we have evaluated it. It's a little bit, it's not the same. So we're not going to be recommending it. We do have another device that we're working on in the works that will also give you ball speed. It's called a PRGR. So we don't have anything set up as far as an affiliate deal for that yet, but we are working on it. But if you want to search the internet, that is one that we've tested, and it is pretty darn good as well. So PRGR, you search it online, or Swing Speed Radar. I haven't used the PRGR very much, but Clay, I know, has done a little bit of testing with it, and it seems pretty promising. So nothing extensive. I can't put my stamp of approval on it yet, but based on what Clay's saying to me about it, seems like it's pretty good. So you can check that out if you want. But I would recommend for sure the Swing Speed Radar. The Swing Speed Radar is pretty accurate. It will give you a funky number every now and then. In fact, TrackMan and Flight Scope, they all have misreadings too. So even the $18,000, $25,000 devices have misreadings. We can't expect to not have some of those on there. So the PRGR is going to be a little bit more expensive, I think, than the Swing Speed Radar. The Swing Speed Radar is a little over $100, I think, and the PRGR is, I think it's $200 or $300, but it does give you some ball speed. So, which is a nice thing to have. So, depends on what you're looking for exactly, but yeah, you can check that out. I'd be keeping your eye out here probably in the next month or so. I imagine we'll have something on the PRGR. Hopefully, if you want to wait that out. If not, so William S says, does this SC200 provide carry distance, assuming no wind? So one thing to keep in mind is that it's an estimated amount of distance. It's not tracking the actual golf ball. It's taking the information that you gave to it. So you told it what club you're hitting, and you swung the club. It hopefully found the ball speed and the club head speed, and it's calculating your distance just based on that.
It also it measures the temperature of the air and stuff like that too, but it's not going to be exact. So don't expect the to be TrackMan accurate. It's just not going to be. It's a total estimation of what that is. And also, if you're hitting range balls are typically not going to go as far as regular golf balls, right? So the smash factor that you're getting with these is going to be lower typically with a range ball. You're not going to be able to get as high a smash factor. So keep that in mind as well. But I recommend the Swing Speed Radar. It just reads your club head speed. That's really all that you care about when you're doing speed training. So that's what I'd recommend is the Swing Speed Radar. Like I said, I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I just think it's a good product and it works really well. Super simple, is accurate when you set it up correctly. So check it out. You can get it on Amazon. Hopefully that helps. Everybody, thanks for joining me today. We'll be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.